Right, I'll just try and do a bit of a dummy fit for camera. So this is the way up the knuckle goes. That's where the steering cylinder goes. That's where the steering the rod goes. I can't remember what the technical name is. Technical name is. Feel free to tell me in the comments because I'll probably remember it later. Anyway, it's not that way. Hello and welcome back to Norfolkfords. Today I'm taking apart the front axle of this John Deere 4320. The swivel bush here is let go. We're a bit worried about what might have gone wrong inside, but we've done this before. I haven't, but I'm sure it ain't that bad. I've done axles before. So I'm going to jack it up and have a look at that. But yeah, I thought I'd say this is our biggest glasshouse tractor. So in the glasshouses, when we do all the soil preparation and that, this usually goes on a spade machine or a rotavator or a power harrow. This is kicking out a mighty 40 horsepower out of a nice little 3-cylinder. Anyway, so I'm going to get the wheel off, make a start on that, and I've actually already got all the bits here. Da, 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 da. So hopefully get the wheel off, get the action strip apart, and we should have a quick turnaround because I've got about 2 weeks to get this done. It shouldn't take me 2 weeks. If it does, I'll be amazed. But I've only got that 2-week window before this tractor goes back into work, so time to get on with it. Right then, we've got it stripped out, and this was done a couple of years ago by a guy who used to work for us, Daniel. Daniel, if you're watching, give us a thumbs up. Miss you, buddy. But I've got to say, Daniel, you didn't do up the nut fully. There's the nut there. It's a specialist nut. It's got like 4 prongs on it. So you see it there. It's got 4 prongs. So. Yeah, no wonder it's because I took a video on my phone. You can see it bobbing about like that. You can move it, can't you? Just thought I'd show you the problem. You see that split? Oh yeah, she's nice. That's why we're taking her apart. That one done up. Simple as that. But he did have the locking collar punched in, so it was never going to come any worse off. And luckily we've got no worn part. It is literally just the seal's given up. So that's all we've got to worry about. So I'm now thinking I ought to get a proper spanner, a proper socket, and do that nut up properly. So I think I'd better go see the boys at Doubledays. So it's now Monday. I last touched this on Wednesday, and yeah, I had to stop because I needed that special socket which I said about, and since then I realised the large seal at the top here was the wrong one. I'd been given the wrong one because this is a early axle. Apparently this is what happened. This is an early axle. So I needed the early seal. The early seal has been superseded to a newer style seal, which is fair enough, yeah. So that's what they automatically gave me. But for the new style seal to work, I need a new knuckle. A new knuckle is worth £4,000. No thank you. So we had to order in the old style seal. So we've had a couple of days delay getting back to it. So I'm now getting on with it. I've now got the special socket, little crown, prongs, that lovely goodness. So that's now nice and snug. so we can actually do it up properly. So I think that's what it was last time. Sorry Daniel, you didn't do it up enough. So I think I'm going to reuse the same bearings. I'm confident they're fine. I've given them a good roll. I'll re-grease them and give them the best lease of life possible, and we'll leave the new bearings we've got on the shelf for later in life when we may want to redo it, because I don't see the point in taking these cups out. Truth is, I'm not really geared up at the minute to take cups out, nor do I want that downtime, because these are, I'd have to put these into a fryer, deep fat fryer, to heat them up so they'll slide in. I'm not willing to do that, I'll be honest. I'm not willing to do that, especially when the bearings are fine. So I'm just going to give them a bit of a clean up, give them a lot of grease before I put it back together, then put it back together. But right now I'm going to start cleaning it up, so cue time lapse. Right, I'll just try and do a bit of a dummy fit for camera. So this is the way up the knuckle goes. That's where the steering cylinder goes. That's where the steering, the rod goes. I can't remember what the technical name is. Technical name is. Feel free to tell me in the comments, because I'll probably remember it later. Anyway, it's not that way. Right, this is the shaft, which provides drive. It's got a little bearing here. Like I said, the bearings are fine. So that slides up there, sits in place like that. So that then is on the inside of this. I don't want to put it together because I'm worried that that will get stuck. But anyway, that then goes in the underside of this. So the knuckle goes up first, like that. Then this goes through it into here. Then this gear sits on the bottom. Then through this face, through this face, that gear sits up here. Then on the other face, the plate that sits on here, there's a big gear that sits on the inside here. It's a very simple gear setup. There's nothing exciting to it whatsoever. It's simple but effective. That's how that is. But because it's got this drop down and you need to make sure you're up against that seal, we weren't against that seal because we didn't have the right tightness on the nut, so it was allowed to slop. So as you're going over bumps and that, the axle's moving about until the seal gave up. We were constantly filling up the axle because the oil level is about there, which, yeah, that's all right for the rest of the hub. Inside the axle, that's a lot good, especially when you've got a diff here. So, start putting things back together with a good helping of grease. Then I'll have a tidy up, fill her up, take it outside, and she's done. Right, it's now time to gearing into place, but before we do that we need to gunge her up. So there's a bit of grease on there actually, which is why you should always check before you put the sealants on. Make sure oil hasn't leaked out, any grit has fallen onto the surface. Give it a little bit of a wipe. Right. This is always a nice fun bit of the job. You don't want to go too heavy-handed with it. He says he's going too heavy-handed with it. Circle, bolt holes. Nice. That's everything covered. So you don't need to do anything in this space. This is just, I don't know, I guess it's deflecting the oil or something. Yeah, it must be, because you've got a little hole here. Must be letting the oil into the middle here, which means it falls onto the teeth. But that'll sit in oil anyway, but yes. There is a P mark and an I mark, which has to be a timing mark of some description. Otherwise, on the bench, I spun the gear, lined it up on the timing mark, and spun around with my finger. It didn't match up, so I'm not really sure if it is a timing mark, but I'm going to line it up, because why wouldn't you? Unless it's made for a different... I don't know. It's a bit bizarre. It's not... You can't even see the mark. I noticed this tooth, because I put it there, but the marker's on the inside edge here, so I don't know how you'd see it lining up. Same with this, it's on the inside. So you just got to have faith that you're doing the job right. Rubbish. Right then. Excuse me while I turn my back on you. There it is. And as you can see, the goo is nicely just pushed itself out on the edge. And we've not gone too excessive because we've just got a little bit. That should be lovely. Right then, we'll just chuck a bit of oil in the axle, and while we're putting the steering back together and the wheel back on, if there is a leak because I haven't put the seal in properly, it should show up fairly quick. So we'll have to pull this slow because I haven't got the right size funnel. He says he spills it instantly. Right then, I'll be perfectly honest, I didn't have a lot of time to make an ending for this video, so here we are. The ending. The mighty little John Deere is back in one piece. I've driven it around the yard, and that's about it, really. I've checked it all, oil levels still the same, and yeah, I can't really say any more than that. I haven't had the time, because T7 behind me, well, not just this T7 but also the topper as well. While I was getting this, the last bit of getting this back together, I couldn't do the sort of ending that I hoped for, because this tyre is brand new, because the old one had basically gotten to the point of perishing. So he got to the field and the tyre pressure just went bang down. Didn't bang, but it was quick as that, bang, and it was gone, out of air. So we had a little bit of that to deal with, as well as the day after, when I'd hoped to finish off the video. You know, the tractor was done at that point, but I hadn't done a finishing video. The topper, the gearbox in the topper decided to shear off, because that topper, I don't like it. It's a bit, oh, I like simple, but that's a little bit, that's a bit too sledgehammer simple, because it's just a gearbox onto a big wheel, and the big wheel spins, and if you get it jammed wrong, it doesn't have a slip clutch, it doesn't have anything, it shears the shaft in the gearbox. So that was something else to sort out. So here we are, literally 10 minutes before I go and put all this footage back together, and I just thought I'd come and say, you know, tractor's back together. I'll try and make time for a bit of video of it working, because in the next 2 weeks, I think, we should have this subsoiling in a glass house. And for those of you who don't know, yes, glass houses do need subsoiling. They do need cultivating of sorts. It's just not the same cultivation that you would do with the T7. You know, this is going to have a 5-furrow plough on the back with a press on. This will have a rotavator. You know, these two tractors are both very good at what they do, but it is impossible to compare the two, because they are so different. Because if I had nothing but glass houses, this is going to be the best tractor in the world. And I don't care if you've got the newest 8RX and that, this will be the best tractor in the world. But if I've got to do field work, if you compare it to this, which is completely nonsense, this is going to be the best tractor in the world, because this is going to do my fields far quicker and more efficient on the AdBlue and the diesel. The John Deere doesn't have AdBlue, but you get my point. They're incomparable, so at some point in the next couple of weeks, I will make the time to, you know, make a video of this work. And it's not going to be exciting, but it's very simply something different, because I bet most of you sat at home are going to be used to T7, but we're different here. We always have been. So, you know, have a bit of glass house. You might learn something. I might learn something. I usually do. So, enough of me waffling as usual. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Lewis Eves. This has been Norfolkfords, and this has been the John Deere. So, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week. For those of you, before you drop it in the comments, this week's video was meant to be about you making a spray booth. It doesn't always happen like that. It's going to be next week, because tomorrow today I've picked up some of the bits that I need to actually do it. So tomorrow night and over the weekend I will film me clearing it out and getting it sorted. So although leave a comment if you want to know something else about the John Deere or anything in general, really, you know. So thank you for watching. Good night.